Yourself?
Good. Pretty well.
Yeah, it was a big tour, huh?
Yeah, it's been sort of a weird one, but yeah, it was great to be playing again. That's for sure.
Yeah. Has it changed much for you with Walter being gone?
Well, yeah, a little bit. I mean, when he was first gone, I think it was we played in 2018 without replacing him. So that was that was quite different because all of a sudden there was a lot more space. A lot less. Yeah, a lot more space. Kind of reminded me of the sounds of the records a little bit more. Uh, and then, but Donald decided he likes the two guitar thing, I think,
Yeah.
and for certain songs, you really got to have it, like Reeling in the Years or Bodhisattva or something like that.
Yeah.
Doesn't really work without it.
But I mean, the crowd, the fans turned out, no?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And, but then, and Connor Kennedy was the first guy. He played I guess he maybe started in 2019, and then Adam Rogers joined us for this last run this year. So, and they're very different kinds of players. I like them both a lot. Uh, but it's certainly different. It's very different to play the entire gig with just one guitar. To have a second guitar player gives me a break for sure, and it gives us that two guitar thing that's kind of necessary on a few tunes.
Is there going to be any new music coming?
Yeah, I don't know. You mean like more recording or anything like that?
Something from Steely Dan, maybe?
I don't know. My guess is that there won't be any new Steely Dan records that are with new music, only because I think that's sort of a brand of
Yeah.
that required Walter. We were able to do a Steely Dan live record, of
Got it.
course, and that came out pretty well, I think. But that's all music that Walter and Donald composed together. So I think if Donald is to do any more recording, it'll likely be a solo record, a Donald Fagen record.
Yeah.
Like he's done, with Morph the Cat and with Sunken Condos and then the Nightfly Live record.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that I can certainly imagine that happening because he's sort of he can't stop himself from writing. He's kind of a restless creative type. So
Yeah.
he's always got ideas churning, I think. So it wouldn't surprise me if he has some songs already that he'd like to record.
So,
but I don't know. I don't know the details. So
yeah. Did you get the pictures of the three guitars I want to talk to?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I remember those.
Yeah. So
I fondly, yeah. They were all like guitars I really enjoyed. I just got to a point where I had too many, and I was starting. I wasn't making good use of them, and I had space for them, but I wouldn't get to play them enough. So that sometimes I would take a guitar out of the case, and because I hadn't seen it in 6 months, it was unplayable. You'd have to like get the guitar repair guy in there and or at least spend some time adjusting the neck, and so it just felt like it wasn't the best of circumstances.
When you signed the Hamer for me, you told me that was the last guitar you had to buy.
I did buy that one, actually. I remember that.
Yeah.
I love that guitar. It was Hamers were really interesting guitars. They had a quality that it's funny. I played one in a Broadway show for not the one you bought, but one that looked similar. It was a double cutaway, but it was also sort of a semi-hollow body, and it had maybe one F hole or something like that. I forget what it was called. Very nice guitar, and I needed a guitar I could play on this Elton John show, Aida, which was the Broadway show, and I had the chair, one of the guitar chairs to play in that show, and because they wanted us to leave a guitar there for subs if I wasn't going to be there, and I was subbing out a lot because I was still on the road quite a bit at the time, and so I had to pick a guitar that would work for the show, but that I could leave in the pit and that I didn't need to use elsewhere, So So I picked that Hamer, and I don't know, I forget why, but I remember one time bringing a different guitar in there and maybe playing a Gibson or something, or I forget which guitar, but I brought another one. And the conductor is like looking at me funny, and like he really missed the sound of the Hamer that
Yeah.
I'd been playing all the time. He got used to it. And what I noticed about it was that it it sat in a track in a beautiful way. It like a Gibson, like my 336, or most 335s. I think they're a wider frequency ranges and they cover more turf, and that's why they have such a beautiful solo sound, because it's a big sound, it's a wide frequency response. And the Hamers, maybe because they're solid bodies or something about maybe the woods or like the size or something, but they're they're kind of sit kind of more narrowly. They don't have a lot of low end that gets unwieldy, and there's a beautiful sort of focused mid range, and it just sort of sits there, and it stays at one level, and it's just nice in a track, not problematic. And I think he was hearing that and loved that, and he missed it when I brought a Gibson to play or something.
Yeah.
It was funny. I was surprised, but then I started thinking, he's right. It does have a really unique sound, and that Hammer has it too. So I
So
think
you
it's something
called
about the size. Was that a double cutaway or is that a single? That's a double cutaway, right?
Yeah, it's a double.
Yeah. Okay.
You called that the Like So guitar.
It is, because that's one song I know I used it on, and it was funny because it's the rhythm guitar on that song. I don't think there's any lead guitar on that song anyway, but there's a basic part that's kind of basic important part that drives the whole song. And when it's I like a neck pickup for the sound of it, and I wanted to use a little distortion on it, and when I play that one, that has too much bottom. It's interesting right there. I like that wouldn't work for me. I'd have to roll off all the bottom end, and like it needs to cut, but sort of sit in a little place in the track, and that's too big, and but the Hamer on that neck pickup, and maybe it's the P90 too. That probably helps too. There's a mid-range kind of sort of peak or something that it just really it somehow calls attention to itself, but doesn't get in the way of other instruments. That's what I think I like about it.
Yeah. Next came the George Benson.
Oh yeah, I missed that one. It was really easy to play. It was kind of it's compact for a jazz guitar. It's just so comfortable, and I always had flat wound strings on it, which is probably what it had on it when you got it. And it has this kind of amazing sort of articulate attack. It's also not a lot of bottom end on that, not a lot of volume on that guitar either, which was great if you're going to play electrically because it won't feed back. I never had problems with it that way, and it's got a real crisp sort of attack, and it's got a woody tone when you listen to it ring. Yeah, I kind of missed that guitar.
You called it the Cousin Dupree guitar.
Pardon me?
You called it the Cousin Dupree guitar.
Oh yes, I used it on that song, which is I'm surprised I even brought that to the session for that. But I guess maybe they asked for something like that, or maybe I just wanted to be prepared for sort of to have some sonic choices, and it was a different one. Yeah, I forget that part, but it was like it had. Let's see, you guess you can't see this. I lift this up here, but some part like that. I forget the rest of it, but it had a little. I forget now. It's kind of a groove. Oh yeah, those two. I know those two little things were in there, but it had it had a kind of a distinctive sound, and it's a really kind of crisp attack, and you could just sort of it sits in the track very nicely. I don't think it was difficult to mix. You kind of it cuts in a nice way, but again doesn't disturb any of the other things that are going on. But yeah, that's a. I think the reason I I was okay parting with that guitar was because it sounds so much like George Benson's sound,
Yeah.
that I think I've been such a fan of George Benson, and for every once in a while, at least in the past, and I haven't done it recently, but like I would really obsess about his lines and try to like transcribe a lot of his lines and learn how to play a lot of that stuff. And I was actually kind of worried that like if I kept that guitar, I'd it would be too strong an influence. I
Yeah.
kind of wanted to sort of distance myself from it because it was too overwhelmingly powerful because I think he's so great.
Yeah.
But I kind of miss, I don't know, I think because if I were playing different things on it and not playing George Benson style stuff on it, I think it would be a very useful guitar, which is what I did on Cousin Dupree. And I made a solo jazz record a couple years ago, and I'm making another one for like that has a holiday theme, and that would have been a good guitar for those tunes. It would be perfect guitar for that, I think. But
And then
it was gone.
Yeah. Then there's the Fender.
Oh yeah, that's a wild one. I had forgotten about that. The Telesonic.
Yeah.
That's a very strange guitar. I think it must have been a design that they came up with after maybe Fender bought Gretsch. I think that's what happened. There was a merger back there right before that guitar came out, because those are those classic sort of Dynasonic pickups, the single coil pickups that are on it. And those were famously on early Gretsch guitars, and it had a really, really different sound. I'm always comfortable playing the Tele shape, and that. So I've had a lot of Teles and still do have several of that body shape. I don't have any Fenders anymore, but that shape is comfortable for me, and it's a classic sound and a very useful sound, kind of a versatile guitar. That one's a little different because again, I think the reason all those guitars were recording choices. That one I used all over Morph the Cat. And I had brought other guitarists to that session, but if you remember, Wayne Krantz is playing guitar on that record too.
Yeah.
And we had the luxury of recording, I think maybe 5 or 6 people at once for the rhythm tracking of that record, which was fantastic. And Wayne was doing, he clearly committed to his choice of sound and guitar, and so I was trying to find like, okay, well, what's going to work. If that's a given, we know he's going to be doing that. Like, what would be a sonic complement? Something that will sound a little different, so it doesn't sound like it's the same sound of guitar or anything. And I think I landed on that one because it just doesn't sound like it sort of does the great rhythm guitar job like a lot of Fenders will do, because it's sort of bright and thin, and so you can kind of turn it down, but it still cuts, But it does it with a different character. There's something about those pickups, I think, that change the sound of. It doesn't sound just like a Tele. It's a little unusual. I'm not sure how to describe it, but it does feel different to play.
Yeah.
Like probably like a Duojet might feel. Maybe it's sort of like a Tele leaning towards a Gretsch Duojet or something. It's interesting.
So that's the conversation on the 3 guitars. Can I ask you a couple of just other questions?
Oh, sure.
So last time my wife Terry and I talked to you, it was in Albuquerque.
Uh-huh.
And your daughter was trying to get into law school in
wow.
St. Louis.
That's right. She did go to WashU in St. Louis. Yeah.
And is she done?
She got her law degree quite a while ago. She's been an attorney for 5 years now. So that must have been about 8 or 9 years ago, at least, that we last connected. She's living out in the Silicon Valley area of California, in Mountain View, California. Her office is in Palo Alto. She works for a firm called Cooley, which is a big firm with other offices, but she's in her old stomping grounds in the Bay Area. Yeah, she went to her undergraduate work was done at Berkeley, so she still has some friends that are out there. So it was kind of like going home again. So although she misses New York, I don't know. I don't know if she'll ever come back to this coast, but we'll see.
You live in New York?
I live in Manhattan. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been here since 1984. So
Yeah. And so you're getting
I
ready to
guess it's
go.
official. I guess it's official.
Yeah. So you're getting ready to go overseas, huh?
Yeah, at the end of September, I'm going to join Madeline Peru on about a month's worth of work. I start in London. They'll be there in all over Britain, I think, sooner than I start. But I'm going to join for her London show, and then I forget where we go, but I think there's some dates in maybe the Netherlands or in France, maybe in Spain. We'll be moving around a little bit, and then we come back to the U.S. and I think we start in Cincinnati. There are a couple more shows in the U.S. that I'll stay with her through the end of that little run. So it's about a month. So
You like playing with her, don't you?
I do. It's really it's such a different musical experience from Steely Dan. So the two are sort of uh, in some ways it couldn't be more different. I mean, Steely Dan is it's a real electric gig. It's kind of I mean, it's not as loud as some bands, but it's loud, and it's a big production. It's 13 people in the band, and I'm playing a big amp, and big pedal board, and like several guitars that people are handing me for different songs. And with Madeline, it's much more stripped down. It's very quiet, surprisingly, it's kind of radically quiet, which I really love. It's easy on the ears that way, but it's also playing quietly seems to be sort of a lost art, and it's really an effective way to get an audience to lean in and listen more. And she does that really well. She sort of insists on that. We never play loud,
Yeah.
which I really love. So
On
it's
the new,
another side of my musicality that it draws on, and it's the closest thing to a jazz gig I get really to play, because I play it sort of with a jazz sound, and it's pretty clean, and it's a simple setup and not a lot of effects. It's more, it's like her music, if you know her music
yeah,
at all.
it
It's
is.
yeah.
So on the new Steely Dan, the live record, is that you on guitar?
The two live records that we did came from the touring that we did in 2019. And the one is the Steely Dan Northeast Corridor record. The other one's the Night Fly, or the Night Fly Live, and that's, I think, the whole record live. They came from the same tour, both the Steely Dan band. And at the time, yeah, I'm on all that, of course, and Connor Kennedy was the other guitar player on there. So you'll hear me and Connor both on both those records.
Yeah, the guitar solos are a little different
Um,
on that record, particularly
different from
Kid Charlemagne's
what?
different.
Different from the record.
Yeah.
Yeah, I typically don't play what Larry played, although I have learned it, and I enjoy playing it. Once in a while, I think I used to throw it in occasionally on album nights when we'd be playing the whole Royal Scam out. I think it's the Royal Scam album, and it starts with Kid Charlemagne, I think, and sometimes I would actually bother to play his whole solo, which is brilliant and fun. But in general, I aim for sort of something that's usually sonically similar, but I try to improvise a bit, and also I want to play something appropriate, but I don't want it to be a sort of copy of the record. That's not my intention, and I think the reason for that is because the whole vibe of our band is not, it's not like the job is not to recreate the originals. The job is to play those songs. And Donald's always been interested in jazz, and he's always encouraging the players in the band to come ready to improvise, and not he has high standards for musical values. He wants it in tune, he wants it in time, he wants it to feel great, he wants the tone to be great, everything, all the musical values he's just as fussy about those as he was when he made those records. But he's not looking to recreate like note for note what happened on those records, and he wants it to be sort of alive in a spontaneous way every show. And I think that's what saves us from being one of those sort of, like oldies bands, or
Right.
like a tribute band or a cover band or something. I mean, or a band that, like, because there are people who will just sort of play their hits and not really be deeply engaged or invested in it, but they're just going for the ka-ching,
Yeah.
and it just has never felt that way with Donald and Walter. It's always, they create a vibe at the top which encourages everybody to really show up and care about playing. And we're playing here tonight, and it's going to be different tonight, and there's room. It's open-ended, in other words, so you can bring your creative energy and there's an outlet for it. It's not something like a Broadway show where you play the same part every night and you're kind of yawning, or you're reading a book at the same time as you're playing. It's not that. And thank God, like it was a lifesaver for me, because I've done that other kind of work, and because I've needed the money, but to have a situation where creative demands are made on me too is just, that's just, I'm forever grateful for that opportunity. It's fantastic. So.
Yeah. Well, Jon, thanks for talking to me. Thanks for.
All right, Doug. Yeah, I hope you're enjoying those guitars.
I am. Maybe I'll catch you guys next time on the road.
I certainly hope so.
Thank you, Jon.
All right.
Bye
Take
bye.
care.